Part 51. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 502. Len Ning felt anxious. Of course, don't worry. It's just. His expression became awkward again. Just what? Thunder asked. It's just that I haven't fully enjoyed my love time yet, and I don't want to be a bride so soon. I'm really not ready, Len Ning said directly, and I also want to work hard to run the fifth branch better than the fourth branch. The Grand Branch Hall is okay. Having said this, a flash of light flashed in Len Ning's eyes. She wants to be her eldest brother's greatest support and achieve something successful. This has been her biggest goal since her rebirth. We can continue our relationship after we get married. Moreover, I will not restrict your career after marriage, Lei Lei said. He suspected that Len Ning was deliberately making excuses. You think simply. Once we get married, my mother will definitely let me. Len Ning couldn't finish what he said. What do I want you to do? Lei Lei frowned. Let me have a baby. Len Ning's face turned red. I don't want to have a big belly and command the brothers of the fifth branch to fight. Just thinking about that scene made her feel ashamed. Even if she was reborn, she was no longer an 18-year-old girl. But thinking about giving birth to a child is really scary. For such a big child to be born from below, it's scary to think about it. Lei Lei was stunned. Haha, then he laughed all of a sudden. The depression in my heart just now disappeared without a trace. You are still laughing. If it were you who had the child, I would marry you immediately without saying a word. Len Ning was so embarrassed that she punched Lei Lei's thigh with her pink fist. Lei Lei quickly smiled and hugged Len Ning tightly. It's not realistic for me to have children. But if you're worried about this, we cannot have children then, he whispered to Len Ning. Len Ning was startled. Don't want kids? How can that work? The eldest brother in the Lei family is the only one. They will definitely have to save a lot of property in the future. If they don't have children, won't there be no one to inherit it? And my mother, ever since she found out she was in love with her eldest brother, has never stopped expressing to her that she wants grandchildren. Furthermore, she also likes children. Not to mention Ziobeo's cute appearance, she wished she had given birth to him. Although she is afraid of giving birth, she also looks forward to having a baby with her eldest brother in the future. However, she was quite moved after hearing what her eldest brother said without hesitation. How many men seek a wife not just to have a baby? The eldest brother really values her above all else. I must have a child, Len Ning sighed. Brother, please give me some time. The corners of Lei Lei's mouth raised slightly. After we get married, we cannot have children first. When you want them, we will have them again then, he said softly. He actually didn't think much about the child. But now that he and Xiao Ning have come this far, thinking that Xiao Ning and him will have a cute baby in the future, he actually has some expectations. No, I just want to wait until the safe zone is established before getting married. Seeing that Lei Lei was still insisting, Len Ning simply said unhappily. What about lying to children? If she really gets married, her mother will definitely make her ears get calluses. Thunder was silent. Brother, before Lei Lei could answer, Len Ning's voice softened again. Finally, Lei Lei sighed helplessly. Okay. Just wait until the safe zone is established. He seriously said that there was nothing he could do to her. Thank you, brother. A smile burst out on Len Ning's face, and he turned around and kissed Lei Lei on the face. Seeing that the storm was about to rise in Lei Lei's eyes, Len Ning quickly jumped off Lei Lei's body. It's getting late, brother, please go back quickly before the thunderous move. Len Ning rushed to the door of the room. Then, he unscrewed the door lock and opened the door. Lei Lei's complexion was a little dark. The little girl who only knows how to light a fire but never puts it out. But he still got up and walked towards Len Ning. Good night, brother. Len Ning squeezed his hand at Lei Lei mischievously, as if he didn't even see his dark face. Good night after all, he still couldn't bear to be angry with Len Ning. Lei Ting stepped forward and touched Len Ning's head, and then left. Len Ning stood at the door, secretly watching Lei Lei's leaving figure. Suddenly the tall man turned around. Len Ning quickly retracted his body. Lei Lei chuckled and said, "Stop reading and go back to sleep." His mood became better again. His Xiao Ning is still a little girl. He needs to be more patient. Len Ning learned that he had been discovered by Lei Ting, so he simply stopped hiding. "I know," he leaned out and said to Lei Ting, while waving his hand playfully. Thunder then turned around and continued to leave. Len Ning finally stopped looking at Lei Lei and finally turned around and returned to the room. Early the next morning, Len Ning and Lei Ting had just arrived at the dinner table when Lei's mother couldn't help but mention their marriage. Len Ning immediately winked at Lei Ting. Lei Lei felt a little embarrassed. Under the urging of Len Ning's eyes, he finally interrupted his mother-in-law. "Ahem, Mom, Xiaoning and I have already agreed that we will get engaged first after you calculate the date." Lei Mu was stunned for a moment. Engagement? Not getting married? He immediately looked at Lei Lei angrily. A rare hint of fear appeared on Lei Lei's face. But he saw Len Ning continuing to wink at him. Lei Lei felt really helpless. Xiao Nizai asked him to tell her mother that she would hide away by herself. All the anger of mother will only be vented towards him. There are too many things going on in the base, so there is no rush to get married for the time being, Lei Lei said against his will. "Where are you not in a hurry?" He is more anxious than anyone else. But even if he is anxious, he can only say this: "Don't be in a hurry. You're already 28, why aren't you in a hurry?" Lei Ting, you, Baba Bala. Lei's mother was so angry that she immediately scolded Lei Ting. Len Ning looked at his eldest brother, who could only endure it silently, feeling a little guilty. Len Ning hurriedly ate quickly and quickly put down the bowl. "I'm full. There's still something to do in the fifth branch. Mom, brother, I'm leaving first." Then he hurriedly smiled at Lei Mu and Lei Ting. Then, before Lei Mu could call her, she slipped away. Guilt. So what about guilt? Are you going to face your mother's nagging with your eldest brother? Forget it. Hey. As soon as Len Ning left, Lei's mother became even more angry at Lei Ting, and directed all her complaints at Ting Ting. "It's a pity that my husband died so early. He worked so hard to raise you two. Now I just want to see you get married and have children, and take care of your children. You don't agree?" Lei's mother pretended to cry exaggeratedly. "That's it for Ning Ning. She is young and ignorant. Lei Ting, you are already 28 years old. Look at many people your age, their children are already in elementary school. How can I explain to your dad when I go underground?" The more he listened, the more outrageous it became, and Lei Lei frowned. "Thank you Chuxia baby for sending me Binqualuo. Kisses." The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 503. When the safe zone is established, Xiao Ning and I will get married, he then said. Lei Mu immediately stopped pretending to cry. So long, wasn't the safe zone just included in the plan? She mentioned this when she heard the brother and sister chatting. "I will speed up the progress," Lei Lei said firmly. At this point, Lei Mu finally understood what was going on. Sure enough, it wasn't that his son didn't want to get married, but that his daughter didn't agree. Thinking of this, Lei Mu gave Lei Mu an expression of hatred. "It's useless, I'll have to be eaten to death by your wife for the rest of my life." But then I thought about it, wasn't her son's wife her daughter? It would be better to be eaten to death. Snort. Thunder. Also, Mom, please don't mention the child in front of Xiao Ning in the future, Lei Lei said after seeing that his mother-in-law had already understood the situation. "What? You don't want to imitate other people's dink, do you?" I don't agree, Lemieux said immediately. My son is smart and handsome, and my daughter is also cute and beautiful. With such good genes, it would be a waste not to have more children. How can I be a dink? She would never agree. Lei sighed helplessly. It's not that I want dink. It's just that Xiaoning is still young. Let's let these things take their own course from now on, Lei said. Lemieux was stunned. I was 18 years old when I gave birth to you, so why are you so young, Lei's mother subconsciously retorted. As soon as the words came out, I realized something was wrong. Is it Xiaoning's fault for not having children? He immediately asked Lei Ting. It's not that I don't want it, I want it in the future. Lei frowned and said, that's why the wedding was postponed. So, my dear mother, please don't do anything wrong, okay? Lemieux was shocked. Then, he quickly guessed the situation. Before she was pregnant with Lei Ting, she was indeed quite scared. She had been telling Ning Ning about having a baby, fearing that it would really put a lot of pressure on her. Then, go tell Ning Ning and tell her that I won't rush her. You should get married as soon as possible, Lei's mother said hurriedly. Hey, if her son postponed his marriage due to her own reasons, she would really feel a little sorry. Okay. Don't rush this matter, it's already decided. Lei looked at Lemieux and said, I will build a safe zone as soon as possible. Xiaoning's temperament means that things promised will not change. Furthermore, after returning to the room yesterday, he also thought about it, and he should give Xiaoning more time. Okay. Looking at the determination in Lei's eyes, Lei's mother also gave up the idea of letting her son talk to her daughter. Both of them have the same temperament. It is difficult to change what they have decided, and they don't know who they will follow. I have some things to deal with in the office. Mom, I'm leaving first. Lei Ting quickly stood up. You have to do things on the first day of the new year. Okay, let's go, let's go. Remember to come back early when you're done. Lei's mother waved her hand to Lei impatiently. Yeah, Lei responded, raised his feet and left. On the other side, after Len Ning left Lei's house, he did not go to the fifth branch, but waited outside. Today is the first day of the Lunar New Year, and she has already arranged a 3-day holiday for herself. If there was nothing important, she would not go to the fifth branch. And she was waiting at the door of Lei's house, and the person waiting was naturally Lei Ting. Sure enough, after a while, thunder came out. Brother, Len Ning quickly waved to Lei and ran towards him. Lei raised his lips slightly, stepped forward and took Len Ning's hand, putting it directly into his pocket. Let's go. Then he took Len Ning into his arms. Len Ning was a little cold, but now he feels warmer. Where do you want to go? Lei asked Len Ning with a slightly raised corner of his mouth. I have a rare break today and have time to date Xiaoning. I want to go outside, Len Ning replied with a smile. She has been moving back and forth between Lishan and Kongzhen. Except for the last zombie wave, she has not been out for a long time. Lei was slightly startled. Okay then, he responded. He hasn't left the Thunder base for a long time. Since Xiaoning had this idea, he would accompany her for a walk. I want to go back to our old home and take a look. By the way, I want to bring back some things, especially some of my mother's things. Mom never mentioned it to them, but she knew that she missed some old things. Both she and her eldest brother are free today, so why not make this trip? Yeah, Lei responded. He immediately took out his car from the space ring. Then the two got in the car. The car headed down the mountain. The journey was smooth, and the two quickly left the Thunder base. Entering the familiar yet unfamiliar city, zombies soon appeared in their sight. It was cold outside, and the clothes on the zombies reminded them that nearly half a year had passed since the end of the world. Looking at the depressed and lonely city, Len Ning felt mixed emotions in his heart. How lucky she is to have the happy life she has now. In your previous life, how big was the safety zone of our Thunder base? Lei Lei drove his car and asked Len Ning casually. Xiao Ning said that she would have to wait until the safe zone was established before marrying him. In order to achieve her wish as soon as possible, his plan would be more radical. Len Ning was stunned for a moment, then smiled at Lei Ting. The entire southern city area has been included in the territory. How big do you think it is? This is actually a bit exaggerated. The safety zone of the Thunder base in the previous life was actually just an area in the southern part of the city. The real area was only 2/3 of the entire southern part of the city. However, the Thunder base in this life is stronger and more populous than in the previous life, and many things have changed. The surviving population of Cydia will be larger than in the previous life. Therefore, it is not impossible to include the entire southern city into the safety zone. Lei Lei was startled. The entire southern city area? The place is not small in total. Was he so powerful in his previous life? How long did it take? Lei Lei then asked. He now increasingly suspected that Xiao Nazai had set a trap for him last night to postpone the wedding date. Only 3.5 years, Len Ning said truthfully. How can a safe zone be built so easily? The Thunder base in the previous life was not as strong as it is now, with so many people joining it. It took almost 1.5 years just to establish a foothold and become the unbeatable overlord of Cydia. At that time, the large and small survivor bases in Cydia were working on their own, and everyone was looking for ways to survive on their own. Except for some necessary trade, there were very few exchanges between the bases. At that time, the big brother proposed to build a safe zone, and the small bases agreed, but the big bases were very reluctant to cooperate. When the persuasion was ineffective, the eldest brother finally killed the chicken to scare the monkeys, used the Blue Eagle base to operate, and led his men to directly kill their leader, and then took control of the entire safe zone in his own hands. Then comes zombie cleanup and city construction. The Thunder base and bases of all sizes worked together, and it took 1 year to complete the safe zone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 504. From that time on, the Thunder Safe Zone became the representative of Cydia. Although there are some large bases outside the safe zones in the east, west, north, and even south of the city that are unwilling to move into the Thunder Safe Zone, they have completely lost the opportunity to represent Cydia. Quanglan Base, which was also located in the south of the city at that time, was one of them. The Quanglan Base is located next to the Thunder Safe Zone. With this geographical advantage, there are very few zombies attacking them. Even if a large-scale zombie wave does break out, the soldiers and mercenaries in the Thunder Safe Zone will spontaneously go to help deal with it. On the one hand, it's for moral reasons, and it's also for the sake of the Crystal Core. Since then, Quanglan Base has become arrogant. They have high self-esteem and think that the Thunder base is deliberately showing favor to them in an attempt to win them over. Immediately afterwards, in the 4th year of the apocalypse, the Southern Army base in City B emerged and quickly occupied the surrounding safety zone of City C. Ambitious preparations to try to get involved in the territory of the Thunder Safe Zone, so as to gradually control the entire South. After the South Army commander Guoqiudong offered an olive branch and was rejected by Thunder, Guoqiudong set his sights on the Quanglan base outside the Thunder safety zone. Zhang Lin, who didn't know how high the sky was, actually believed what the Southern Army base said, and obediently became the Southern Army base's lackey, turning the Quanglan base into a nail next to the Thunder security zone. After that, it was because of her that the eldest brother suffered a disastrous defeat. Thinking of this, Len Ning clenched his fists unconsciously. Hanyu. Korea Building. Southern Army Base. She will get it back sooner or later. It won't take that long, Lei Lei said solemnly. 3.5 years? He can't wait any longer. Xiaoning, are you okay? Lei Ting was about to say something to Len Ning, but saw something wrong with her expression. It's okay. Len Ning suppressed his emotions, raised his head and gave Lei Lei a pale smile. My eldest brother and mother are still here. Fine. Is it? What happened to Xiaoning in her previous life? Who was the man who failed her? No, Len Ning said immediately. Brother, please stop asking. Lei Lei hesitantly withdrew his gaze from Len Ning, not daring to stimulate Len Ning's emotions anymore. The car continued to drive and knocked away several zombies blocking the road. No matter what happened in the past life. Xiaoning, I just want you to know. In this life, I will always be with you and never leave you. After a long time, Lei Lei suddenly said. His face was serious and his voice was calm, instantly shattering the defense in Len Ning's heart. Len Ning finally relaxed and let himself lean on the passenger's backrest. Yeah. Never leave. After a while, he followed. Lei Lei smiled and increased the accelerator. Ahead is the villa area where they used to live, and the place is about to arrive. About 3 minutes later, the car finally arrived at the entrance of the community. An iron gate blocked the driveway. Helpless, Lei Lei could only park on the roadside. Then, he and Len Ning got out of the car. Lei Lei directly released 2 electric whips and eliminated a dozen zombies chasing the car behind him. Someone probably closed the door on purpose. We have to walk in then, he said to Len Ning. Yes. Len Ning stepped forward and took the initiative to reach out and hold Lei Ting. Lei Lei raised his lips slightly, put the car back into his space ring, and headed towards the iron gate with Len Ning. After checking the situation, Lei Lei discovered that the iron door was indeed locked from the inside. Move aside, I'll open the door, so he said to Len Ning. This community is the top wealthy area in the urban area of City A, and it is full of wealthy people from City A. After the end of the world, these people should all leave. When such a situation occurs, is there someone still there? After Len Ning got out of the way, Lei Lei didn't think much more. He directly released the electric blade and cut off the lock of the iron door. The door lock quickly fell to the ground, and the iron door lost its blocking ability. Your method is easier than me instructing Xiaoman to dig into the lock core to unlock the lock. She had to use her brain to study the position and strategy when instructing Xiaoman. This operation of the elder brother is completely effortless. Sure enough, destruction is the best way. It's just a pity about the door lock, Lei Lei said lightly and led Len Ning towards the villa area. This villa area has been deserted for nearly half a year. Without anyone to maintain it, weeds have grown everywhere, and it has long lost its original splendor. Because before the end of the world, this was a top-notch residence, and there were very few people inside. The two walked for a while before discovering 2 wandering corpses. Judging from their clothes, they were property management personnel in the villa area. Brother, please don't do it, let me do it. Seeing Lei Ting about to take action, Len Ning said quickly. Then he waved Xiaoman and retrieved 2 crystal cores in an instant. Haha, you're lucky, there's another one of the 2nd level. Len Ning was in a good mood as he threw the crystal core upwards. She used to be envious of her eldest brother's thunder power, which was extremely powerful when killing zombies and could easily kill a large group of zombies. But when it comes to collecting crystal nuclei, no one has the ability to compare with her Xiaoman. Looking at Len Ning's money-obsessed look, Lei Lei couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. There are a lot of zombies in this part of the city. If you want crystal cores, I'll go hunting with you later. What's the same? Len Ning glanced at Lei Lei. I'm trying to avoid waste. Every zombie she killed had its crystal core collected, and her eldest brother seemed to be just the opposite. Even in the biggest wave of zombies he encountered in the base last time, he only collected the Zombie King's crystal core and not any of the others. Fortunately, it was their own people who cleaned the battlefield afterwards, otherwise it would have been a waste. When he got out of the car just now, the dozens of zombies he whipped to death with his electric whip didn't pick up the crystal cores. What a waste. Haha, okay. Then when we come out, you will kill all the zombies. Lele couldn't help but laugh. He really doesn't have the habit of picking up crystal cores. Wouldn't it be nice to do something else when he has time? However, after hearing what Xiaoning said, he actually became a little envious of Xiaoning's abilities. It would be much easier if he also had a spiritual pet like Xiaoman who specially collected crystal nuclei for himself. You can kill them, too. I'll just let Xiaoman pick them up, this is easier. Okay. After the things are done later, I will go out and let you pick up as much as you can. Lei couldn't help but touched Len Ning's head. Len Ning's cheeks turned red. Let's go, we're just ahead then. His little hand held Lei Ting's hand. Yes, Lei responded and continued walking forward with Len Ning. On this stretch of road not far away, Len Ning killed more than a dozen zombies one after another. Why are there so many zombies around here? Len Ning asked Lei Ting after putting Xiaoman away. Just now, they saw some rotting corpses on the road. The traces are obvious and clearly man-made. Are there really any living people in this villa area? Go get the things first. After we get them, let's take a look, Lei said. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 505. If there are survivors, they must be brought back. Yeah, Len Ning nodded. Looking up, the destination is in front of me. These things seem to be paying special attention to our family, Len Ning muttered when he saw zombies wandering outside the villa. Then he rushed forward and quickly eliminated several wandering corpses at the gate of the villa. But soon, Len Ning discovered that the door to their house was closed from the inside, and there were several zombie corpses in the yard. Without saying anything, Len Ning directly operated Xiaoman to unlock the door. Lei came forward and was about to ask about Len Ning's situation, but Len Ning reached out to stop him. Seeing the scene in the courtyard, Lei immediately understood Len Ning's intentions. With a slight sound, the door was opened. Opening the door, Len Ning glanced at Lei and walked inside. Lei followed him through the door and closed the door behind him. Passing through the deserted courtyard, the two quickly arrived at the front hall. At this moment, the floor of the front hall was already covered with dirt and dust, and there were 5 or 6 zombies wandering inside. Seeing Len Ning and Lei appearing, the zombies were very excited and immediately ran towards the two of them excitedly. Len Ning directly swung Xiaoman, freeing them in just a few seconds. Clang! Suddenly a small voice came from the second floor. The two people immediately looked in the direction of the source of the sound, but unfortunately, no one was seen. Len Ning and Lei looked at each other. Afterwards, Len Ning gestured to Lei and asked him to inspect the first floor while he went to the second floor. Lei Ting was worried at first, but thinking that Len Ning was very strong now, he didn't say much. Then, the two of them split up. Len Ning stepped lightly and went up the stairs. On the stairs, Len Ning saw the corpses of 2 more zombies. The rotting corpse had already leaked corpse fluids, and the stench was unpleasant. Len Ning took out 2 masks from his space ring and put them on, feeling a little better. After going up to the second floor, Len Ning began to look for possible living people along each room. After unscrewing several doors and checking, Len Ning found that these rooms showed signs of being tidied up, at least it didn't look like they had been abandoned for half a year. This made Len Ning even more convinced that there were living people living here. But before the end of the world, their family only had 4 servants, and except for Uncle Liang, the rest were all corpses. If there are really living people here, they can only be infiltrators from outside. There are so many houses in the villa area, why did you choose their house? Finally, Len Ning walked to the last 2 rooms. Just as he was about to open the door as before, Len Ning discovered that this time the door was locked from the inside. His expression changed, he let go of the door handle, and Len Ning took 2 steps back. People inside, come out, then he said directly. Quiet. Say it again, come out on your own after waiting for a while, Len Ning said again. Clang dash at this moment, there was a sudden sound inside the door. Len Ning's face darkened. Sure enough, there was someone. Taking out Xiaoman, Len Ning was just about to use Xiaoman to forcefully break the door, when the door suddenly opened with a squeak from the inside. Then, a tall man with yellow face and muscular body appeared at the door. What shocked Len Ning was that this man was very handsome. If it weren't for his tall height and Adam's apple, she would have thought he was a woman. The strange thing is that he actually gave her a sense of familiarity. The man looked nervous, looking at Len Ning with fear and wariness in his eyes. Don't kill me, Miss Lang. The man opened and closed his dry and flaky lips and said to Len Ning. Len Ning was stunned. Do you know who I am? He looked at the man and asked. I know. The man tried to avoid Len Ning's gaze. I have lived here for several months, and I have seen your photos. If he hadn't known that the other party was the original owner of the villa, he would not have dared to come out to meet her. With her neat method of killing zombies just now, he was definitely no match for her. Did you kill the people in the yard and corridor? Len Ning looked at the man inquiringly. They are not humans, they are zombies, the man quickly explained. Len Ning said nothing and continued to look at the man. Yes, I killed those zombies, the man continued. What's your name? Why do you appear here? Len Ning then asked. Lu Qing. I used to live next door to you and was your neighbor, Lu Qing said anxiously. Len Ning was stunned. Finally, I remembered that a man did move next door to their house before the end of the world, and he was a famous star. Because more than 5 years had passed since her previous life, she had forgotten about it. Master Lei. Len Ning was still thinking about things, but Lu Qing shouted towards Lei Lei, who was already coming over. Looking at Lu Qing's expression on Lei Ting's eyes, Len Ning frowned unconsciously. Master Lei, I am Lu Qing. We almost cooperated at that time, Lu Qing said excitedly to Lei Ting. The look in his eyes was so hot that one could almost think that he and Lei Lei were in a relationship. Len Ning subconsciously took Lei Ting's hand and pulled him to her side. Brother, do you know him? Then he asked Lei Lei unhappily. Lei Lei glanced at Lu Qing. Do not know. Lu Qing suddenly looked panicked. I am one of the endorsement candidates invited by your Lei family. My agent said that you personally engaged me at that time. Have you forgotten? Seeing Len Ning's eyes turning cold as he looked at her, Lu Qing hurriedly rushed to Lei Lei Road. Lei Lei was stunned. Only then did I remember that the group did hire a spokesperson before the end of the world. Really? Len Ning saw Lei Ting's expression and asked Lei Ting. Yeah, Lei Lei responded. At that time, his subordinates did submit several candidate spokespersons. As his image was more suitable, he chose him. Lu Qing, now that I think of it, it seems that he was called by this name. Lu Qing was relieved when he heard that Lei Lei finally admitted his identity. There is nothing I can do, this Miss Len in front of me is too cruel. If she really attacked him, he would probably be pierced in the head with that mysterious weapon before he could resist. Since we are neighbors and you can't live at home, why did you come to my house? Len Ning looked at Lu Qing again. Lu Qing hurriedly avoided Len Ning's threatening gaze. After the apocalypse, most people in the villa area fled. I had nowhere to go, so I stayed with some people. But there are also zombies in the villa area, which is very dangerous. The security at my house is not as strong as yours, and the food at my house is not as much as yours, so he came over. He didn't dare go too far because there were zombies outside. Of the villas nearby, the Lei family has the most food and supplies. Here he hid and settled down. Only by relying on the dry goods in the Lei family's cellar and the fruits that had been grown on the trees outside could he last so long. In addition to food, Lei's villa also provided him with weapons. He had heard earlier that the Lei family was a gangster, and indeed he found knives and firearms in Mr. Lei's room. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kge now. Chapter 506. It was those things that allowed him to preserve himself. Where are the other survivors? Why aren't they with you? Len Ning ignored the others and directly asked what he was concerned about. According to what this person just said, besides him, there are others who have not left the villa area. Humans are social animals, how could he live alone in a villa for more than half a year? Why aren't the others here? Could it be that he was the killer? Len Ning thought of the corpses he saw outside when they came in. Were those people really zombies when they died? They wanted to bully me, so I ran away. Su Len Ning's eyes were so intimidating that Lu Qing panicked. Len Ning's eyes changed, and he instantly released his pressure. When the world is in chaos at the end of the world, his appearance will indeed cause some trouble. But, is this really the case? After I got here, they still came to pester me, so I fired. I didn't mean to kill anyone. The strong sense of oppression made Lu Qing feel suffocated for a while, and she finally said. Then, his knees softened and he knelt directly on the ground. Then he took out a gun from his pocket and handed it to Len Ning. Kill me, I don't want to live anymore. Lu Qing finally collapsed completely. He regretted not leaving the villa area with those people during the last days. In that way, even if he died on the road, he would have been spared so many sins. He regretted even more why he fled Kyoto and came to Sidia in the first place. Now not only is he harming himself, he is also... No, don't kill him. Suddenly a voice came from inside the door. Lu Qing turned around suddenly and saw his father crawling out of it. Didn't I tell you to hide? Who told you to come out? Lu Qing burst into tears and said angrily to his father. Yes, he was trapped here with his father who flew over from Kyoto to find him before the end of the world. His father has never supported him in the entertainment industry, and he only wants to take him back to follow the path he has arranged for him. But he always refused and always disobeyed him, thinking that he was just selfish and wanted to impose his will on himself. His parents divorced when he was 5 years old. Because of his strict father, he always held a grudge against his father for his mother's departure, thinking that he was the one who forced his mother away. As an adult, he began to rebel. He will do whatever he doesn't allow himself to do, to express his dissatisfaction with his father. But it was only after the end of the world that he realized that he was wrong. When he was at the survivor base camp, he helped him resist the harassment of those people time and time again. When it was their turn to go out to find food, he was always standing in front of him. At that time, he didn't appreciate it and laughed at him for being an old man who couldn't kill zombies at all. Until later, he personally killed a man who tried to violate him and escaped from the survivor base camp with him. Only then did he gradually change his view of him. Afterwards, they found weapons and food in the Lei family villa. They relied on the deterrent power of the weapons and attracting zombies to stop the survivors from pursuing them. During these long months, his father finally confided in him and confessed everything to him. At that time, he finally realized that it was not because of his father that his mother left him, but because his mother cheated on him and ran away with an actor. The person who abandoned him was his mother, not him. At the same time, it is also for this reason that his father hates him being in the entertainment industry so much. In the past few months, his father has been comforting and encouraging him, saying that this is the top wealthy area in City A. If there is rescue, priority will be given here. Let him not lose heart. It is also because of this idea that they have survived until now. But just a week ago, poor food and sanitation finally made my father sick. He could only tell himself to be strong, to shoulder his responsibilities, to hold on, and wait for the rescue team to arrive. Unfortunately, the rescue team did not arrive, but they did find the original owner of the villa. These two brothers and sisters kill zombies without blinking an eye, with cold cruelty. This time, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to escape. No matter what, his father's health was getting worse day by day, and he didn't want to struggle anymore. Just let them die together and still have company. In these last days, death may be happier than living. Cough cough cough, please don't kill him. Cough cough, I killed those people. Cough cough dash. The gray-haired old man crawled to Len Ning on his knees. His complexion was sallow and skinny, and he looked as if he was terminally ill. Len Ning frowned as he watched the old man kowtow to himself and cough violently. I won't kill people for no reason. You guys get up first, Len Ning said solemnly. I feel a little confused. She had sensed someone else in the room before, but she didn't expect it to be an old man. Judging from the slightly similar appearance of the two people, they may be grandparents. Lu Qing was stunned. Thank you, Miss Len. Then he quickly kowtowed to Len Ning, and then helped the old man get up. Dad, get up quickly. Could it be that he thought wrong? Is she willing to let them live? Lu Qing's thoughts have been spinning rapidly for several times. The brother and sister were not in the villa area before, so they must have come in from outside. If the two of them could take them away, they might be saved. How could he be willing to die like this if he could live well? Len Ning was slightly shocked. This old man is actually Lu Qing's father? But soon, Len Ning figured it out. The fact that the old man looks so old probably has something to do with not eating well for a long time and living in a dirty environment. Plus, I'm sick again, so it's strange that I don't look old. Thank you, Miss Len. Ahem. The old man also quickly thanked her. You're welcome first, Len Ning said solemnly. Have you touched anything in the room in this villa? No, Lu Qing said quickly, I only took the food from the cellar and the weapons from the study. Len Ning looked at Lu Qing. Lu Qing's eyes were clear and she didn't dodge. Len Ning finally withdrew his gaze. Miss Len, can you tell us what's going on outside? Lu Qing asked Len Ning after making sure that Len Ning had no ill intentions. Ahem. The old man also looked at Len Ning expectantly. It's been chaotic for a long time, almost all zombies, Len Ning said calmly. Lu Qing's face turned pale. Cough cough, cough cough dash. The old man also coughed violently. However, the survivors have established some safe bases. Under normal circumstances, zombies cannot attack them, Len Ning frowned. This old man is very ill. If he doesn't send it to the healing power user for treatment, I'm afraid he won't be able to survive for long. Are you also from the survivor base? Lu Qing asked immediately. Yeah, Len Ning responded lightly. We'll come back to pick up some things and leave as soon as we're done. Miss Len, cough cough dash. Lu Qing was about to speak, but his father beat him to it. Say, Len Ning looked at the old man. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 507. Ahem, Lu Rud, was the former Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs in Kyoto in the last days. Ahem, please, I beg you to take my son out of here. Ahem. Lu Rud said with all his strength. Len Ning was a little surprised. This old man turned out to be the Deputy Foreign Minister of Kyoto before the end of the world. This is a very high position. She expected that Lu Rud would ask them to take them away, but she didn't expect that he would only ask them to take Lu Qing with them. He was prepared to die here. He is a loving father. Dad, don't talk nonsense. If you want to leave, let's go together. I will never leave you, Lu Qing objected immediately. Then he looked at Len Ning with a pleading look. Miss Len, please take us out of here. I am willing to give you all my belongings. Len Ning glanced at Lei beside him. Did she seem to be in need of his money? Then he glanced at Lu Qing. I'm not interested in your money. Then he smiled. Lu Qing suddenly became nervous. Yes, it's the end of the world now, who cares about money? However, If everything you just said is true, I can take you away, Len Ning continued. The father and son were surprised, then ecstatic. Really, really? Can you bring my dad with you? Lu Qing and Len Ning confirmed. Lu Rud also looked at Len Ning nervously. If he could leave, why would he be willing to stay here and wait to die? The premise is that you didn't lie just now, Len Ning said directly. I'm not lying. I swear to God, everything we said is true. Lu Qing hurriedly made a gesture of swearing. No need, Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing. Lu Qing then put down his hand with a stiff face. Brother Len Ning then looked at Lei Ting beside him. Lei Lei immediately understood what Len Ning meant. Take me to find that group of people then, Lei Lei said to Lu Qing. A flash of fear flashed in Lu Qing's eyes. You and my eldest brother will go and confirm what you just said. Your dad will stay here, Len Ning said solemnly. Since there are still survivors in the villa area, we have to go and see them. If those people are only guilty of small virtue, take them away. If they are indeed all scum, then society should be purified. A flash of struggle flashed in Lu Qing's eyes. Go ahead. Miss Len will take care of me and everything will be fine. Lu Rud had recovered from his slightly excited mood and finally stopped coughing. This is a smart father who described Len Ning, looking at him as taking care of him. I can take you there, but those people are not easy to deal with. It's best. Lu Qing looked at Len Ning. What's the best thing? Len Ning frowned. It's best if you, Miss Len, come with me and let Mr. Lei stay here. If Miss Len goes with her, those people are definitely no match for her. But if it were Mr. Lei, it would be hard to say. Although Mr. Lei looks mighty, there are more than a dozen people on the other side, and they are not that easy to deal with. Len Ning was stunned. Haha, then he laughed out loud. This is probably the first person to directly question the elder brother's strength. Lei Lei was a little confused and said nothing. Haha, okay. Then let me go with you, Len Ning said with a smile. She would rather go out and meet the survivors than stay in this dirty and dark villa. Brother, then I'll leave this place to you, Len Ning then said to Lei Ting, please clean up the things in our mother's house and move as much as possible back to her. Yeah, Thunder nodded. Let's go. Len Ning didn't waste much time. He glanced at Lu Qing and walked towards the stairs. Dad, I'll be back soon, Lu Qing hurriedly said to Lu Rud. Then he cast a troublesome look at Lei Lei and quickly chased Len Ning. Despite the stench, Len Ning took Lu Qing down the stairs to the first floor. It wasn't until he left the hall and entered the courtyard that Len Ning took off his mask and breathed in the fresh air. It's so suffocating, Len Ning complained, and directly put the mask into his space ring. Lu Qing was shocked by this scene. Ms. Len, your mask, was his eyesight blurry? Just now I clearly saw Miss Len holding the mask in her hand. Len Ning turned his head and shook the hand with the space ring towards Lu Qing. You don't know about the space ring? Then he took out a bottle of water from the space ring and threw it to Lu Qing. Wash your face, he said with some disgust. She hadn't noticed it in the villa before, but now outside, she found that this man was really dirty. Not only was it dirty, it also smelled a bit. Lu Qing stiffly took the water into her hand. This time he finally understood that such a big bottle of water was really taken out of the ring by Miss Len. Lu Qing was very shocked. But he didn't ask in a hurry. Instead, he opened the water Len Ning gave him and drank heavily in front of Len Ning. Len Ning frowned. This man, the water was for him to wash his face, but he actually drank it. Anyway, looking at his ragged appearance, I don't know how long he has been hungry. Len Ning shook his head and walked forward. Lu Qing hurriedly followed. After drinking 3/4 of the water to quench his thirst, Lu Qing poured out the remaining water to wash his face and briefly clean his hands. Who would have thought that he, a misophobic person before the end of the world, would now be reduced to not having a bath for more than 4 months. After washing her face and feeling the winter sunshine shining on her face and body, Lu Qing felt as if she was alive again. Miss Len, thank you. Lu Qing caught up with Len Ning and thanked her. Oh, no need. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing. Unexpectedly, she saw a very beautiful face, which made her stunned for a moment. When she was in the villa before, she knew that this man was good looking. Now that he had washed his face, she realized that it was more than just good. It's no wonder those people have evil thoughts about him. Although this Lu Qing is a man, his feminine and gorgeous appearance is actually more attractive than a woman. Seeing Len Ning lost his mind, Lu Qing smiled brightly and was in a good mood. Len Ning withdrew his gaze and took out 2 apples from the space ring. He threw one to Lu Qing and started chewing on the other one. Lu Qing looked at the big, red apple, her eyes filled with emotion. Thank you, Miss Len, he swallowed, but didn't have the heart to speak. He and his father had not seen such good food since the end of the world. Naturally, he wanted to eat it, but he had to leave it to his sick father. At this moment, my father needed this apple more than he did. Don't want to eat? Len Ning asked after not seeing Lu Qing chewing on the apple. My eyes are almost glowing green, but I can still hold it back. Lu Qing hurriedly hid the apple behind her back, fearing that Len Ning would take the apple back. My dad is not in good health, and I thought leave it to him. Len Ning raised his eyes and glanced at Lu Qing, with a hint of appreciation in his eyes. Eat. Your father is taken care of by my elder brother, and he eats as much as I do, Len Ning said, and took out 2 more pieces of bread from the space ring and handed them to Lu Qing. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kge Now. Chapter 508. Lu Qing's eyes lit up and she quickly took it. Thank you, Miss Len. Thank you. Then he quickly opened the package, chewed and swallowed. Lu Qing almost choked because she ate so quickly. Len Ning curled his lips, took another bottle of water from the space ring and handed it to Lu Qing. Thank you, Lu Qing was not polite. After taking it, he unscrewed the bottle cap and started drinking. After drinking water, the situation was relieved, and he continued to eat bread quickly. After eating the bread, Lu Qing felt like crying. It was the best bread he had ever tasted in his life. It's the end of the world, I really didn't expect that he could still eat such good food. Glancing at Lu Qing's reborn appearance of a starving ghost, Len Ning couldn't help but shake his head. He is also a poor child. He was so skinny, and if she didn't feed him something, she was afraid that he would fall down on the road at any time. How far away is the place? Len Ning asked. It's right in front. Lu Qing quickly forced herself to recover from the overwhelming emotions and said to Len Ning with some fear. We'd better be careful and pass quietly. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing, and the little man in his hand suddenly had a seizure. Then, the sound of heavy objects falling to the ground was heard 8 meters away. After taking a few steps forward, Lu Qing discovered that there were actually 3 zombies. Looking at the corpses of the 3 zombies, Lu Qing was a little frightened. These 3 zombies were behind the grass, just in his blind spot, and he didn't notice them at all. If he came out alone and didn't notice them at such a close distance, he might be doomed. Miss Len, she actually just raised her hand and killed them. He had seen Miss Len's method of killing zombies before in the villa. Because her weapon was so special, he even suspected that he had seen it wrong. But just now, he was right. The stick in Miss Len's hand was really powerful. Len, Miss Len. Lu Qing stared at Xiaoman in Len Ning's hand with fear on her face. Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth. Now do you still think it's necessary for us to go there quietly? He raised his eyebrows at Xiaoman. What kind of weapon are you talking about? Lu Qing asked fearfully. It's simply scarier than a gun. Can attack multiple enemies at once. Len Ning shook his head. Xiaoman is not a weapon, it is my partner. As soon as he finished speaking, the stick in Len Ning's hand turned into a green vine and wrapped around Len Ning's arm. Still acting coquettishly, rub rub rub. Len Ning was in a good mood and reached out to touch the only small flower plate on Xiaomen's body. He fed the 3 crystal nuclei he just obtained to Xiaomen one by one. Xiaomen ate the crystal core and shook the leaves on the vine happily. Her little man is very smart, but it's a pity that he can't speak. Lu Qing was stunned. This thing is actually a living thing. And still eating zombie crystal cores? Let's go, don't waste any time, Len Ning said in a deep voice as he took his eyes back from Xiaomen. Oh. Okay, Lu Qing now felt more confident and quickly replied. Then, Lu Qing took Len Ning and continued to the villa where the survivors were stationed. Soon, the two arrived in front of a villa with a yard full of vegetables and fruit trees. When a man guarding the door saw Len Ning and Lu Qing walking over in a swaggering manner, he almost suspected that he was dazzled. I want to see your leader, Len Ning said directly to the people inside. Only then did the people inside come to their senses. Ha! Where did you bring this girl? Then he asked Lu Qing angrily. Lu Qing couldn't help but move in the direction behind Len Ning. Yes, he looks pretty, the boss will definitely like it. The man licked his lips in front of Len Ning. A trace of disgust flashed in Len Ning's eyes. Immediately, a vine shot out and penetrated directly into the man's eyebrows. The man fell down before he could even grunt. Soon, the people watching on the second floor of the villa noticed the situation here. Someone broke in, then, a voice came from the villa. Len Ning frowned and directly directed Xiaomen to open the lock. At the same time, soon, a group of people came out of the villa. As soon as Len Ning unlocked the door, he met the person opposite. That's interesting. Did you kill the Greyhound? A man who was obviously stronger than ordinary people looked at Len Ning and asked. He was holding a gun in his hand, pointing at Len Ning. Following his gaze on Len Ning, the man looked at Lu Qing who was hiding behind Len Ning. You little bitch, do you think you can cause trouble for me by finding a girl like this? There was a flash of desire in the man's eyes, or are you both here to beg for sex? Ha 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 ha. The minions behind the man laughed. Boss, let me be the second one, a man with sinister eyebrows looked at Len Ning and said. I'm the third one. Listening to the increasingly unpleasant words, Len Ning's face turned gloomy. It seems that what you said is indeed true, then he said in a deep voice to the person behind him. What should we do now? He has a gun in his hand. Lu Qing suppressed her fear and said. This group of demons, he would rather die than fall into their hands. Kill. Len Ning spat out one word. Immediately, Xiaomen took action quickly. Something unexpected happened, and the boss on the opposite side changed his expression and directly pulled the trigger. Lu Qing's eyes narrowed and she quickly closed her eyes. At the same time, a black shield formed in front of Len Ning and swallowed the bullet fired by the boss. At the same time, several vines took care of the minions behind the boss in 2 or 3 blows. Only the boss was left, and he was instantly disarmed by Xiaomen. Looking at Len Ning, who was walking towards him step by step with a sullen face, the boss's eyes were horrified, as if he was looking at the god of death. After shaking his legs a few times, his tall body suddenly knelt on the ground. Miss, have mercy. Miss, have mercy. The boss knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing to Len Ning. Before Lu Qing could feel the pain, she heard the boss cry of mercy and opened her eyes only to find that the people on the other side were dead and injured. Seeing the scene in front of him, Lu Qing was shocked and then ecstatic. The lady won. Miss, have mercy. I am blind and blind. I am a power user, please let me follow you. Seeing Len Ning walking towards him, the boss kowtowed. In fact, many people in his team have superpowers, but his superpower is the strongest. He once thought that with his strength, he could walk sideways even if he went outside. But now he knows that there are people outside the world, and there is a sky outside the world. This woman is so terrifying, like a devil. Being able to withstand and even catch bullets is beyond human description. She didn't kill herself, she must have taken a fancy to her own strength. If he could follow her out of the villa, he would naturally follow her. As for that bitch Lu Qing, he will have plenty of opportunities to deal with her in the future. Lu Qing stepped forward quickly and followed Len Ning. Miss Len Lu Qing glanced at the boss with fear, and Lu Qing looked at Len Ning with some worry. Thank you Yurang Pump Baby for the flowers and Ice Eye Baby for the ice cream. Happy New Year, my dears, and may you be happy every day in the new year. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 509. He thought about the same thing with the boss, thinking that Len Ning didn't kill the boss because he cherished his talent. Indeed, you two have a deep grudge, Len Ning said lightly. I'll leave this person to you. Lu Qing was stunned. The boss was also stiff at the same time. Then he quickly turned to kowtow to Lu Qing. Lu Qing, it was my fault before. I just like you too much, please let me go. I swear, I will stay far away from you in the future, and I will never have any evil thoughts towards you again. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing, and there was a dagger in his hand. Lu Qing looked at Len Ning and saw her nodding towards him. Then, suppressing the fear in his heart, he reached for the dagger. The boss noticed the situation and stood up immediately. He mobilized his strength instantly and prepared to attack Len Ning off guard. But he was quickly entangled in vines, and his arms and waist immediately lost strength. During the struggle, he fell heavily to the ground. Seeing Lu Qing holding the dagger and walking towards him step by step, the boss was completely panicked. Miss, please forgive me. I am a second-level power user, let me follow you. I will be loyal. Miss, seeing Lu Qing's resentful expression, the boss once again looked at Len Ning for help. Unfortunately, there was nothing left in Len Ning's eyes except impatience. At this moment, Lu Qing had arrived beside the boss. Lu Qing, Lu Qing. It was my fault before, I was a bastard. Please spare me this time, and I will repay you like a cow in the future. Lu Qing, the boss's eyes flashed with fear, and he rushed towards Lu Qing plead. I don't need you to act like a cow. I just want to turn you into a zombie. Lu Qing raised a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth. Ridiculous. This man was originally his bodyguard hired by Gao Xian, but in the end he became the first person to have evil intentions towards him and even wanted his life. Bitch, how dare you? Bitch, ah dash the black boss only sprayed a few sentences before he screamed. Because Lu Qing had already pierced the dagger into his chest. Blood splattered and Lu Qing was sprayed in the face. The warm touch seemed to stimulate Lu Qing's nerves. One stab after another, like a hornet's nest, Lu Qing vented on the boss to his heart's content. The harder the boss screamed, the more excited and angry he felt. After about 2 minutes, the boss finally died. At this time, the flesh on his chest was almost like paste. Finally having vented enough, Lu Qing sat slumped aside. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing and said, see if everyone is here. Then he glanced at the corpses around him. Lu Qing nodded dully, it's all there, he had confirmed it just now. Afterwards, Lu Qing hurriedly got up from the ground. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing's whole body, with some disgust in his eyes. After meeting Big Brother and the others, we have to leave here. You dash. Then he looked at the villa and said, why don't you go see if you can take a shower inside? The eldest brother has always taken good care of his car, and he must have had it cleaned by the old man. As for the one in front of him, the current situation looks worse than that of the old man. Lu Qing was stunned. Len Ning had already taken out a set of clothes from the space ring. Do you know where the bathroom is? I know. Thank you, Miss Len. Lu Qing looked a little shy and stepped forward to take the clothes. I was very careful when I picked it up and wiped my hands on my clothes several times. After getting the clothes, Lu Qing hurriedly ran towards the villa. Miss Len, I'll be out soon, don't leave, he said as he walked away. Because of being harassed by the boss before, he was actually very afraid of bathing here. Miss Leng asked him to take a bath just now, and the first thought that came to his mind was that she was going to be unfaithful to him. But soon, he gave up this idea. I'm glad I didn't express this passing thought. If it is before the end of the world, it is still possible that girls will have thoughts about themselves. But for him now, Miss Leng's emotions all the way have been either indifferent or disgusting, so it's strange that she could like him. She stinks so much that Miss Leng might dislike him for stinking her up. Also, she and Mr. Lei will take them away later. If they had a car, he looked so embarrassed that he might have stained their car. I only give you 10 minutes. Len Ning raised his hand and looked at his watch. Lu Qing's expression tightened and she quickly quickened her pace. Len Ning raised the corners of his mouth and walked towards the door of the villa. There are already zombies there who heard the noise. She was just idle, killing zombies for fun, waiting for Lu Qing to come out. In order to pass the time, Len Ning deliberately slowed down the speed of killing zombies. Unfortunately, after she killed all the 20 or so zombies that came, Lu Qing still hadn't come out yet. I looked at my watch and saw that 8 minutes had passed. Are you ready? After getting bored, Len Ning shouted directly into the villa. Here we come, Miss Leng. Here we come. Soon Lu Qing's voice came from the villa. Then, after a while, a figure hurried out. While running, I was still putting on my coat. Lu Qing passed by the boss's body and saw that he had turned into a corpse. The boss was so excited when he saw him passing by. Unfortunately, it was useless no matter how excited it was, as it couldn't touch Lu Qing at all. With a surge of emotion in her heart, Lu Qing ignored it and hurriedly ran towards Len Ning. A zombie with its arms chopped off and its chest amputated is destined to be unable to do evil. From now on, it will lie here forever, living with one head and never die. When Lu Qing approached, Len Ning was stunned again unconsciously. This person really does have the ability to be a star. Let's go. Len Ning put away his distraction and said. Then leave. Lu Qing raised the corner of her mouth and hurried to follow. Miss Leng, where are we going when we leave here? Lu Qing felt that her whole body was so comfortable now. Just now, after he ran into the villa, in order to save time, he didn't go to the bathroom at all, but went to the kitchen. For convenience, the boss moved a bathtub in the bathroom to the kitchen to use it as a water tank. Let the water superpower put water in it every day. From then on, everyone usually drew their domestic water from inside. In order to save time, he ran directly to the kitchen. Then he took off his coat and jumped directly into the bathtub. Then he took off his clothes and took a shower. The water was so cold that he shivered, but it also made him very happy. In addition to taking a shower, he also washed his hair. Fortunately, he and his father used scissors to trim their hair at the Lei family villa before, so they didn't delay things because they had short hair. He estimated that it took him more than 3 minutes to get out of the bathtub. The water in the bathtub was a mixture of red and black, and it was so dirty that it made his eyes sting. But he didn't have time to sigh. Seeing that there was still water in the bucket next to him, he immediately picked up the bucket and poured it down from his head. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 510. Finally, he quickly ran to the living room and randomly pulled a piece of cloth to wipe his body. Then he started to wear the clothes Miss Leng gave him. The clothes were very warm and quickly solved the problem of his upper and lower teeth fighting. In this way, he finished cleaning himself in such a short period of time. He really felt very comfortable at this moment. The clothes that he didn't even look at before the apocalypse made him feel particularly good looking now. Thunder Base Len Ning said calmly. Lu Qing was stunned. Thunder Base was created by Mr. Lei, he then asked in surprise. The name of this base is quite domineering. It is actually the same as Mr. Lei. Yeah, Len Ning replied. You are so awesome, Lu Qing immediately praised. Miss Len, how many people are there in the Thunder Base? What's the situation inside now? Lu Qing asked with a look of longing. More than 20,000. Of course it's not comparable to what it was before the apocalypse, but it's still a normal society inside, Len Ning replied. At this time, her brows were already frowning. Then do you still use soft sister coins? If not, how about trading? Lu Qing's eyes lit up and he asked. We issued our own currency, and the crystal core can also be used as currency. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing. Precious metals, jade, and the like, are relatively valuable. Lu Qing's eyes flashed. Miss Len, can you accompany me back to my previous villa later? Then she said excitedly. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing and said nothing. The meaning is obvious, I don't have time. Lu Qing was anxious now. Please. I have important things in the villa, he quickly pleaded to Len Ning. Len Ning had an expressionless face and remained silent. It's jewelry and jade. I put the safe. Lu Qing was helpless and finally said anxiously to Len Ning. Before the end of the world, he was also a well-known artist, and many advertisers wanted to cooperate with him. Some of those things were exhibits sent by jewelers, some were given to him by previous jewelers, and many came from fans, which added up to a large number. Although he didn't pay much attention to them, they were valuable after all, so he locked them all in the safe. Now, soft girl coins cannot be used in the Thunder Base, and he and his father have nothing to offer, so they can only rely on those things to settle down in the Thunder Base. Jade. When Len Ning heard these two words, a trace of fluctuation flashed in his eyes. I'll give you half as repayment for your life-saving kindness, Lu Qing said quickly. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing. You promised to give it all to me before then, he said calmly. A flash of embarrassment flashed across Lu Qing's face. Okay, I'll give it all to you. After a long while, he finally said as if he had made a lot of determination. Len Ning finally couldn't help but laugh. Okay. I'll take a walk with you. I'm not interested in those gold and silver ornaments. Only those jade articles of yours. If there are space jade articles in them, give me half of them. Lu Qing was stunned. Then there was a burst of joy on his face. Thank you, Miss Len. Thank you, then, he quickly thanked Len Ning. Haha, Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth and strode forward. Lu Qing hurried to catch up. Miss Len, what is space jade? Lu Qing asked curiously. While asking, he looked at the space ring on Len Ning's finger. Miss Len's ring is made of jade, a space jade. Is it possible that there are treasures like this among his jade ornaments? Len Ning was much more patient this time, and talked to Lu Qing about the origin of space jade. After hearing this, Lu Qing felt excited. He didn't bring those things with him because he felt that his wealth would not be revealed, otherwise he might have discovered the existence of space jade. A weightless portable space is such a wonderful thing that you can't even think of it. Soon, the two saw Lei and Lurud standing outside Lei's villa at the intersection. Lurud also changed his clothes at this time and looked more energetic. Brother, Len Ning called Lei Ting and ran towards him quickly. Lu Qing also hurriedly ran to his father. The father and son were very satisfied when they saw that each other was well, had washed and changed into new clothes, and was in good spirits. Is everything done? Lei raised the corners of his lips slightly. Okay, Len Ning replied with a smile. However, he still has to get something, so it will take a while, Len Ning said and glanced at Lu Qing. Lei frowned slightly. There aren't many things, we'll be out soon, Lu Qing hurriedly said to Lei Ting. Brother Len Ning looked at Lei coquettishly. Go, Lei finally compromised. Okay, big brother, wait for us, Len Ning said and turned around to leave. Thank you, Mr. Lei, Lu Qing hurriedly thanked Lei Ting, and then went to chase Len Ning. Lu Rud looked at the scene with an unconscious smile on his face. Lei Lei looked at Lu Rud, who quickly suppressed his smile. Don't worry about Lei Lei. Lu Rud straightened his expression and said to Lei Lei. You're welcome, Mr. Lu, Lei Lei replied calmly. I haven't seen him so happy for a long time. When we go to the Thunder base, if Mr. Lei can use us as father and son, we will definitely serve him, Lu Rud said. After his son and Miss Leng left the villa, he asked Mr. Lei many questions. Lei Xiao answered him one by one. Although Lei Xiao talks little, he already knows a lot of information about the Thunder base because he asks a lot. Although he is old, he has been in politics for many years. Lei Xiao is willing to help them, and he must have taken a fancy to this. By going to the Thunder base, he and his son can start a new life. He was satisfied to get a job from Mr. Lei. Lei Lei looked at Lu Rud. Don't worry, we'll talk about these things later then, he said. Yes, Lu Rud bowed respectfully to Lei Ting, indicating that he recognized Lei Ting as his master. After the end of the world, the original society was overturned. He and his son had no special powers. He was lucky to have this opportunity to work under Mr. Lei. Lei Lei glanced at Lu Rud, and then looked away. He is a man who knows the current affairs, so he quickly found the best way for him at the moment. He did intend to let Lu Rud join the military department to help him. It's not because of his abilities. After all, even if he has the ability, he has never seen it with his own eyes. What he values is his identity. The Thunder base is about to plan a safe zone, and Cydia will soon be purified. With its unique advantages, Cydia will surely be the first city in China to build a safety zone. So what's next? Heroes are made in troubled times. In times like this, political powers, large and small, will go their separate ways. In the future, after the zombie problem is solved, humans will fight among themselves. Kyoto before the end of the world will be the most justifiable regime, and it will need a bridge to connect with Kyoto. This bridge is Lu Rud. Before the end of the world, he just wanted to support the Lei family and give his mother and Xiaoning a happy life. Now, he can do more. My responsibilities are no longer just to my family. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Qi Now. Chapter 511. On the other side, Len Ning and Lu Qing went to the villa next to Lei's family. After going up to the second floor, Lu Qing ran directly to a dressing table. After rummaging around hurriedly, he finally found the key for him. I saw Lu Qing holding the key and walking towards the closet again. After a lot of work on the wardrobe, a hidden safe appeared in front of the two of them. Lu Qing was happy and quickly used the key to open the safe. Because of the power outage, the safe had already run out of power. Fortunately, the spare key could also open the door. Lu Qing made a few simple operations, and the door of the safe opened. Looking at some pre-apocalyptic contracts and materials in the safe, Lu Qing didn't pay attention at all, just grabbed them out and threw them aside. Then Lu Qing glanced around the room. I scanned twice in a row, but couldn't find what I needed. Just when he was about to ask Len Ning, he saw that Len Ning had already handed over a canvas bag. Thank you, Lu Qing's face was filled with joy and she quickly thanked him. Then, quickly put the precious metals and jewelry in the safe into the canvas bag. Soon, a heavy bag was filled. Seeing Lu Qing turning around with the bag, Len Ning glanced at him. I didn't realize it, but there's quite a lot of stuff. Lu Qing's eyes flashed with wariness. But it only took a moment before a smile appeared on his face. If Miss Leng wants it, I'll give it to you. Len Ning curled his lips and said, come on. If I want to grab it, can you stop me? Haha, Miss Leng is joking. Lu Qing smiled awkwardly knowing that Len Ning had seen through her expression just now. Let's go, get out of here first. We'll talk to you in the car later. Len Ning left directly. Okay, Lu Qing hurriedly chased Len Ning. The two walked out of the villa. Lei and Lu Rud were still waiting outside. It's getting late. If we go back now, we should be able to catch up with my mother for lunch, Len Ning said to Lei with a smile. Originally, I just wanted to go out on a date and bring my things back to the villa. Who knew that we would pick up such two people? Now we can't leave them to go out to play, we can only go back to the Thunder base. Yeah, Lei raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Give me your things and go over and help your dad go. Len Ning then looked at Lu Qing. Lu Qing was stunned for a moment, then handed the bag containing his belongings to Len Ning. Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing and directly put the things into his space ring. I'll give you my stuff back in the car. Then he raised the corner of his mouth and said to Lu Qing. It's okay if you don't return it, just treat it as a thank you gift to Miss Lan, Lu Qing said to Len Ning with a smile, her eyes filled with calmness. Haha, Len Ning chuckled twice and walked forward. Lu Qing stopped thinking about it, walked over and squatted in front of Lu Rud. Seeing his son's thin appearance, Lu Rud felt a little distressed. But he only hesitated for 2 seconds before getting on Lu Qing's back. It was already a great kindness for Mr. Lei and Miss Len to take them away. All they had to do now was to follow them. You only have this chance, you must seize it. Lu Qing gritted his teeth, picked up Lu Rud and hurriedly chased Lei Ting and Len Ning. Before the end of the world, he was so pampered that he never carried heavy objects, let alone a person. In the 6 months since the end of the world, he has been malnourished for a long time, his body is not as good as before, and his strength is even worse. His father's condition wasn't much better, he was even thinner than he was. This would allow him to carry him. Gritting his teeth, he could still persist. Len Ning and Lei chatted and laughed, with no intention of helping the father and son who were following them. However, his eyes would glance behind him from time to time, and his steps would be slowed down intentionally or unintentionally, just so that he could stay within 20 meters of the father and son. Son, if you can't put me down, please help me walk. Feeling his son's breathing getting louder and louder, Lu Rud felt extremely uncomfortable. Don't talk. I can do it, Lu Qing replied in a deep voice and continued to carry Lu Rud on his back. It takes a lot of effort for him to speak now, for fear that he will lose his breath and be unable to carry the person on his back the next second. Lu Rud felt distressed in his heart. Then no more words were spoken. At this moment he felt like crying. He is a failed father. He has always controlled his son not to do this, arranged for him to do that, and never cared about his inner thoughts. After the end of the world, he had in-depth communication with his son and slowly repaired the relationship between father and son. His son has never suffered much since he was a child, so pitiful. When he goes to the Thunder base, he will fulfill the obligations of a father. Lu Qing gritted her teeth and persisted, and finally carried Lu Rud to the gate of the community. At this time, Len Ning and Lei were already waiting by the car. Lu Qing gritted her teeth, held back a breath, and walked quickly toward the car with Lu Rud on her back. When he arrived at the car, he finally leaned to the side and laid Lu Rud down against the car. Lu Qing knelt on the ground on both knees one after another, her legs shaking violently. His forehead was also covered with sweat, and the thin shirt he was wearing was soaked with sweat. Lu Rud hurriedly prepared to help Lu Qing, but he refused. Leave me alone, get in the car first. At the same time, Len Ning walked up to Lu Qing with a smile. Directly handed over a towel and a new shirt. Wipe it off, change your clothes and get in the car. Let's set off right away. There was a hint of admiration in his eyes. Although this man looked like a girl, he acted like a man, and she admired him. Thank you. Lu Qing stood up and got up from the ground. He took the towel and shirt. Len Ning raised the corners of her lips slightly and got directly into the passenger seat. Dad, you get in the car first. Lu Qing wiped the sweat from her face and body with a towel and said to Lu Rud. A flash of hesitation flashed in Lu Rud's eyes, and then he opened the door and got in the car as Lu Qing said. He couldn't cause trouble for his son. Soon, Lu Qing changed her shirt and got into the back seat. "Let's go," brother Len Ning glanced at Lu Qing from the rearview mirror in the car, who had his eyes closed after sitting down, and said to Lei Ting. The Thunder immediately stepped on the accelerator. The car gradually accelerated and drove forward along the highway. The father and son in the back row were thinking a lot. Until now, they still feel that all this is a dream. Did they really leave that villa and go to the Thunder base? Lu Qing propped herself up, opened her eyes, and looked at the terrifying scene outside the window for a while, and then she lay down on the back seat tiredly again. As expected, the world outside is already dominated by zombies, a living hell on Earth. Fortunately, they are going to the Thunder base. About 15 minutes later, after Len Ning made sure that Lu Qing's body was basically calm, he took a bottle of functional drink and 2 pieces of bread from the space ring and handed them over. "Replenish your strength and don't fall asleep," Len Ning said. "Thank you, Miss Len." Lu Qing was exhausted, and Lu Rud took over first. Then he helped Lu Qing handle the food.